Hello AML enthusiasts! Welcome to AML Singapore's YouTube channel. In this video, we shall discuss the client onboarding process and understand risk factors that businesses need to be mindful of during the client onboarding process. How to incorporate anti-money laundering (AML) procedures in the client onboarding process while enhancing the client experience. AML regulations for client onboarding in Singapore that businesses need to follow during the onboarding process. First, it is important to understand the factors that can make onboarding a client risky for the business that intends to onboard it. Businesses can assess the money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing risk posed by a potential client based on the factors, or a combination of factors such as whether the name of a potential customer appears in UN or domestic sanctions lists, whether the client is classified as politically exposed person, whether the client is connected with terrorists or terrorist groups, or engaged in terrorism financing activities. If the client originates from or is connected to high-risk countries, such as the countries blacklisted or grillisted by the Financial Action Task Force, whether the client displays suspicious behavior similar to commonly observed typologies and red flags, if the client has a prior history of financial crimes, such as tax evasion or corruption. To prevent onboarding clients posing such risks, it is necessary to have in place adequate AML compliance procedures. The step-by-step customer onboarding process in alignment with AML compliance requirements includes steps such as conducting Know Your Customer (KYC). KYC is the first step to compliance. While performing KYC, collect clients' details such as name, address, contact numbers, and other data points. Client screening, screen customers against lists of terrorists and sanctioned individuals and entities and negative news sources. Risk assessment. After concluding the KYC and screening processes, businesses are in a position to evaluate the client's risks based on their business, location, transaction, delivery channels, and product services. Configure transaction monitoring rules. It is important to monitor the consistency of the client's transactions with the purpose of business relationship. Hence, establish transaction monitoring rules on the basis of the expected nature, size, and volume of customer transactions. Record keeping. Businesses are required to maintain records of the processes undertaken for the client for a period determined by the respective regulatory authorities. Review and audits. After completing the compliance procedures, businesses must review the client onboarding process to ensure that they are effective and align with the regulatory requirements. There are different regulatory authorities for different reporting entities in Singapore. There are a few standard requirements a business must fulfill before onboarding a client, considering the nature of the client, the purpose of the business relationship, geographic location, etc. before onboarding a client. Adopting a risk-based approach while performing customer due diligence (CDD) processes. For example, taking enhanced due diligence (EDD) measures when dealing with high-risk customers. Ascertaining that the client's transactions are consistent with the business's knowledge of the client. Maintaining records of all client information, documents, and transaction details for a time period prescribed by the respective regulatory authorities. Implementing independent review and audit mechanisms to periodically evaluate the effectiveness of their AML programs. While handling AML procedures, it is important to comply with the regulatory requirements. The Singapore government has made efforts to ease client onboarding compliance by introducing various technological initiatives. The Monetary Authority of Singapore has introduced the MyInfo platform. It is an integrated system that contains government-verified individual data that removes the requirement for additional documentation for customer identity verification. Another initiative is non-face-to-face client identity verification. It facilitates collecting secure digital signatures and biometric identification and conducting real-time video conferencing to speed up compliance processes. Regulatory authorities have also created an email alert system to send updates on UN sanctions lists. But remember, before adopting these digital platforms, businesses must ensure they have the right digital infrastructure, as advanced technologies in AI, biometrics, and authentication are required for accurate and faster results. If you like this video, then be sure to subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and colleagues who want to learn more about AML compliance in client onboarding.